apologize for my voice. I still have a bit of a cold, so please apologize for the occasional cough and sneeze. Now, my name is Marco Tippmer from Capgemini Consulting, and I'm here today to talk about learning in virtual worlds. As Nige alluded to, my experience goes back to around September 2006 when I started to look at Second Life, and I actually managed and run the virtual presence for my previous employer, PA Consulting. I did also, over the course of last year, run a couple of internal training sessions for fellow employees, and I managed a couple of projects for real-life organizations in Second Life. The objective for me today is to introduce you to a couple of concepts, how learning in virtual worlds can be applied, and these concepts are generic in nature. I will use Second Life as an example because that's where most of the academic institutions currently are investing their efforts. I have a slide to show you how many institutions roughly are in Second Life. The number is exploding literally by the minute. But before I go into the more conceptual aspects of the presentation, a bit of history. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about Second Life, about virtual worlds over the last year, 2 years in the media. Business Week titled in April 2006, Virtual World, Real Money. There's a picture of Anshi Jung, the avatar, who actually the person who made the first $1 million by selling virtual property in Second Life. And an interesting quote by Gartner here. Gartner predicts that by 2011, 80% of active internet users, now that's, I've been told, about 1.5 billion people worldwide, will have a virtual world presence, will have an avatar in a virtual world. Maybe not Second Life, maybe something else. So what I wanted to drive here on the slide is basically that this kind of technology is really fundamentally changing the way we use the web and the way we are interacting with the internet, with other people, collaborating with friends, peers, etc., with businesses. How did it all start? Now, on the left side, you see the term virtual reality. That term was formed in 1987 by a chap called Jaron Lanier, a French-American born in New York, who came up with this term virtual reality. And this massive hype started about virtual reality end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, driven mainly by the media. There were already existing applications out there. SimNet is one, which I will show you later, which is used by the US Army for training personnel. But the technology at that point in time wasn't there. Graphics, video cards, etc. were not fast enough, and the hype burst fairly quickly and got almost forgotten. The interesting aspect here is, on this diagram, if you look at the green line, where it says massive multiplayer online role-playing games, MORPs, that line actually started, or these type of applications started to become a real consumer market when the broadband became a network for everyone, basically, at the end of the 90s. And I'm looking here at Second Life. Second Life was launched in 2003, and that's when broadband applications started to boom, Web 2.0, mashups, etc. We all have heard of YouTube and Facebook. User-generated content, all of this came together, plus the gaming industry had more and more fancy applications out, and Second Life was one of the first applications out there which really kind of brought these elements together. And looking at the different elements, I have 3 dimensions here. I have gaming, I have simulation, and I have social networking. I mentioned gaming. World of Warcraft is probably the most known game in this environment. 8 million people played online. It's a virtual world, but it doesn't have any kind of user-generated content in it, so it's a closed environment. The publishers produce content which people can enjoy. On the simulation side, we have SimNet, which I mentioned before, used by the US Army to train personnel before they are being deployed into war zones. And then on top, we have social networking, YouTube, Facebook. And in the middle, taking elements from all 3 dimensions, we have the new generation of virtual worlds. Second Life is one world out of many. Habbo Hotel is probably the largest one, with apparently about 80 million registered users. But it's not well known, and it's a quite specific marketplace. Habbo Hotel attracts mainly 11 to 18, 19-year-olds. The differences here, I've just listed a couple of them. Second Life, 10 million users, mainly in the US and Europe. There are 1 million users, etc. You can read it as much as I can. It just gives you a flavor that Second Life is not the only virtual world, and maybe actually there will be something else in the future. A couple of virtual worlds are in development. In terms of which virtual worlds are being used for training, I've put the slide up. I didn't actually have that in the beginning when I prepared the presentation, but on the 12th of January, there was a digital media summit in Boston, which I wanted to show you actually. And this summit, the education, let me get that right, the Immersive Education Organization, which is a cross-international organization of academic institutions, companies, standard bodies, announced the Education Grid, which is an international infrastructure to develop new standards for the education sector. And they used, or they announced, free products to be used as platforms within this Education Grid: Croquet, Project Wonderland by Sun Microsystems, and Second Life. I don't want to go into more detail there, but it just shows you this happened literally just 2 weeks ago, that there are international bodies pushing ahead, trying to define standards and ways forward in the education area, in the education context for this virtual technology. Right, I will talk a little bit more about Second Life. More than 10 million registered users, 870 square kilometers of land. That's apparently double the size of Manhattan. The users spent about 24 million hours in Second Life. That's per month, and 2/3 of the users are under 34. 64% are male, and apparently 300,000 people spend money in Second Life. They spend quite a lot of money. They spend about $6.5 million US every month in Second Life. There's a real booming economy. A lot of companies are pushing into Second Life. More than 100 companies have set up a presence and are exploiting Second Life for various applications. Learning and technology is being talked about as the killer application for virtual technology. And I have a couple of interviews, videos which I hope will work, which will emphasize why. Characteristics of virtual worlds. Now, just to draw your attention to 2 elements here: personal self. Each avatar in a virtual environment is a real person. That's quite critical. We might not actually look like the lady here on the bottom picture with a big helmet on. We might do in the future, in a couple of years' time, I don't know, probably. But each person is a real, each avatar is a real person. And actually, interestingly, a study was conducted a couple of years ago to understand that particular aspect. Everyone has a personal, a perception of personal space around us. Here in Europe, it's culturally dependent. My perception is probably a meter and a half, where I have personal space around me. In Asian countries, it's different, maybe half a meter, maybe a meter. The research in Second Life was conducted to understand how avatars in Second Life will stand apart from each other. And the distance avatars in Second Life is equivalent to the distance we stand in real life. So people do, after some time, forget that they're looking at an avatar and moving an avatar in this virtual environment. They actually have the impression they're really there. And that's the aspect of immersion. A virtual environment gives you full immersion. You have a multitude of channels to communicate with other people, and you're not alone in a virtual environment. You have other people around you. You can talk to these people literally with voice. You can text with them, you can chat, etc. And you have, like in the picture at the top here, you have various means of enjoying multimedia content. You have video, you have audio, you can look at slides, etc. So it's a rich multimedia environment, a shared experience. I'm not sure everyone has seen Second Life, so I thought I'd just quickly, and I hope this works now, give you a 1 minute, 50-second flavor of Second Life. Aha. Now that's me, that's my avatar. The German Zwerling. Don't ask me why I picked that name. I only found out after I picked that name that I can't change it anymore. And now I have so many friends in Second Life, so there's little point of changing the name. I was aware that there's hardly anything about Capgemini in the presentation, so I thought for 10 seconds I'll show you our office. We used that for recruitment purposes last year. And it's quite a pretty office. It shows some history about Capgemini, etc. That's an interesting build. This is a future hospital. It was built by the Imperial College here in London and sponsored, designed by the NPL. And the idea behind this hospital is to demonstrate how in the future hospital layouts could work, could look like. It's quite realistic, and you could envisage easily that you use this environment for training purposes, to educate staff members, to educate new members of the hospital. Here it's an A&E environment to interact, to collaborate. And in fact, that's actually happening. They did some videos how these kind of training sessions look like, and they put these videos into the environment. That's a training provider in Second Life. I'm using the most popular mean of transport, flying in Second Life. I'm just having a look quickly at the wall here, and you can see every hour there was another training session scheduled. So training is a big thing already in Second Life. And while I was looking around for interesting places, I found INSEAD, and they just set up a virtual environment, a virtual presence in Second Life, using it for research, for public conferences, etc. And I thought this one is quite nice. It's always a bit of eye candy. It's a very pretty environment. Right. In terms of business applications, I mentioned that companies are using various forms of interaction. They're using these kind of technologies for various aspects. Collaborative design is one aspect which is slowly starting. Coca-Cola actually had a community-based competition last year to design a new Coke bottle. That's just one element of how design using this kind of technology could work. Marketing was one of the aspects or one of the applications which was used in the beginning when companies pushed into Second Life, and virtual conferences, meetings, recruitment are kind of picking up now. A lot of organizations are using these kind of applications in Second Life. And learning and education, more than I think 100 academic institutions are now actually in Second Life. Having a quick look at 3 elements, and I want to talk more about learning and education now. The interesting aspect of virtual world learning is that it takes elements from 3 dimensions: classroom-based training, e-learning, CBTs, computer-based trainings, and web-based online training. I can have a classroom in a virtual environment. People can talk to each other using normal voice. They can interact, they can go into breakout sessions, they can have direct conversations with the teacher, with the tutor. They can be picked on if it's a school or someone doesn't listen or something. E-learning CBTs, I have the ability to create quite simply, quite cost-effectively, learning tools, simulations, supersized molecules, etc. In Second Life. And I can use these for self-learning. I can go into Second Life. I don't have to collaborate. I can just go in and I can interact with the environment. One thing I actually created last year was a fueling station. I created quite a nice, I think it was a BP fueling station, with the element, with the feature that the concrete slab was able to be made transparent. It's a click of a button, and the feature was that I could then see all the underlying and underground features, the storage tanks, the pipes, etc. And that fueling station was designed for health and safety training. So the idea was that a lorry driver could be shown this and would learn how to position the vehicle inside this kind of fueling station. It was a demonstrator, but the idea is that you can actually use this kind of technology to create things you just can't create in real life. And it's web-based, it's online. I can do it from any location in the world. I'm independent from a physical location. Just very quickly here, this list was compiled July 2007. I just read this morning that it's more than 100 universities now, and I'm highlighting which universities here from the UK are in Second Life already. Hertfordshire, I've read, running, piloting computer science classes in Second Life. Examples in the UK, one I would like to draw your attention to is SCOME or SHOME. It's a pilot project by the Open University, sponsored by the National Association for Gifted and Talented Youth. And about 150 pupils are taking part in virtual classrooms, virtual lessons, in archaeology, AI, ethics, philosophy at the moment. And the objective of SCOME is to understand and to learn how these kind of technologies can be used on a wider scale in a school environment. And on the bottom here we have two pictures from this pilot. It's actually on the teen grid in Second Life, so it's aimed at the kind of the pupils here are between 11 and 15, 11 and 16, and the teen grid in Second Life is a closed environment. No adults are allowed inside this environment. I would like to now show you two examples of how organizations are using Second Life. The first example is languagelab.com. It's an organization based here in London, but they only operate in Second Life. Their objective is to train students globally around the world in languages, mainly English, but also in Italian, in Spanish, etc. And they are doing that by running classes in Second Life. And instead of just reading through this here, I actually met with Paul Sweeney. Paul is the Director of Education, and I met him last week and filmed him. I asked him what his experiences are in regards to virtual learning versus real-life learning. Paul is he used to work for the British Council, teaching English classes, and I did ask him also about the benefits he sees of Second Life, and he gives us a bit of a tour of his facility. So hopefully that works now.
My name is Paul Sweeney. I'm the Director of Education for languagelab.com. I think the first thing you need to do to make a meaningful comparison is to actually establish the fact that Second Life, it's a people space. And therefore, that just as you can, a classroom in real life is a place where people choose to gather in order to learn. In a virtual space, you can have a virtual classroom where people can come together. And these same success factors apply there as in the real classroom, in that the people need to come together for this, with the same objectives in mind, with the same understanding of what the process and what the end point is. And the people there to help them reach those objectives, the trainers, the teachers, need to be appropriately skilled. Okay, so here we are in a space that you can relate to. It's a conference room, a meeting room, a training room. Actually, our maximum class size is usually 10 or 12, so this is slightly too big, but we do have a fair few classes in here when we're looking at English for work. And so a virtual classroom can, in many respects, replicate what you can do in a face-to-face, in a traditional training room. You can have people sitting around here being addressed by the trainer. The trainer can address people in plenary or ask people to go into private voice chats in order to work on something in a smaller group before coming back to plenary. Equally, this building contains breakout rooms where I could suggest, okay, well, if Group A would like to go off down the corridor and come back in 20 minutes and report their conclusions. Think about, if you like, the real-world classroom. It's a convention. It's what people understand. It's where they need to gather in order to learn. But of course, it has its limitations. There are lots of things that you can't do in a real-world classroom. It's four walls, and the tables and chairs are usually fairly fixed. But in a virtual classroom, what we found is that all the reasons that you need a cohort of people and a trainer to be together, they don't actually need to stay in the classroom. So, for example, in the virtual classroom, the walls can be transparent, and for example, we could go somewhere else to see how more effective and affective learning can take place. And we could go there now. Okay, so here we are outside the Oriental themed restaurant in the Language Lab City. So fortunately, there's no difficulty in getting a table at the moment. But this brings home one of the points of Second Life and virtual worlds, is that they are immersive. They can take you out into realistic and functional scenarios, and so it supports what we, after some discussion, decided to call life-based learning. It's the best combination of classroom, if you like, and immersion.
And I think that's the interesting aspect of what this organization is doing. They're actually not just using classrooms, they're actually breaking out into a real-life environment in Second Life, in this virtual environment. For example, if you're learning business English, you can go into a business meeting and you can test and you can use your newly learned language skills in this kind of business environment. You will have, think of like Dragon's Den, for example. Or what they're doing is they have a hotel, and in the evenings people will gather in a restaurant environment. They will talk in the newly learned language, and they will have a murder mystery going on, or they have a pub quiz going on. The whole idea is to actually provide a real context to the language, not only learn it in a classroom. And the other interview I wanted to show you is Mike Creighton. Mike is a professor at Suffolk University in Boston, and he's going to run every second class this year in Second Life. And I've asked him why he's doing that and what his expectations are.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Creighton. I am a professor of business management and risk management at Suffolk University, which is a business school and law school dedicated to corporate and business law and accounting and finance, located in downtown Boston in the United States. We are here at Second Life at the INSEAD School Library, another fine institution of higher learning. Second Life is something that we all are eager to take advantage of for a number of reasons. Like any other institution, academic institutions are interested in doing three things. As I see it, any institution likes to try to increase revenues or sales, decrease costs or expenses, and improve the quality of their products and services all at the same time. Second Life helps you do all three of these things. As an academic institution,
I cut it actually short here because I'm running out of time, I realized. Just to quickly summarize the rest of the video, what he's alluding to is that his organization, his university, is trying to reach globally students, and he can't do that only in Boston. Boston is a high-priced location. Not everyone can go to Boston. There are immigration rules, etc. Through a medium like Second Life, he has the ability to reach out to students all over the world, and he can teach classes all over the world in Second Life, and therefore can get tuition fees from all over the world and raise his revenue. It's one of the benefits he mentioned in this video. Quickly to summarize the benefits, and actually using Second Life, the benefits, the real benefit is a combination of all of these. Trainees do not have to be physically present, therefore they can reduce travel costs, accommodation costs. And a very interesting aspect is that training sessions can be recorded. Now in Second Life I can only record with a film camera in 2D, but there are other systems out there which allow me to record in 3D. So I can, for example, record a emergency scenario, emergency staff working together, ambulance crews, firefighters working together, and I can record the whole training session in 3D, and I can play it back after the training session, and I can analyze the movement of the staff members, etc. I mentioned the ability to easily create learning applications, learning tools in Second Life, supersized molecules, for example. I've seen a fuel cell in Second Life, a 3D model, and it's a much more, it's a richer experience to see a fuel cell operate in a 3D environment than just reading about it on a piece of paper. It's risk-free, we heard this before, and it provides a rich collaborative environment for trainee interaction. And I was asked to just list quickly a list of potential risks. On top here we have technical risks. A lot of corporations currently still lock access to sites, to applications like Second Life, because of the network bandwidth requirements of these applications. the organizations or the providers of these worlds have realized these kind of technical limitations and are working on it, but at the moment, still I find that a lot of organizations can't access actually Second Life from their own offices. Identity and access management is an issue. Second Life, every avatar is anonymous. I don't know who the person behind the avatar is. That is a benefit. It's a level playing field. It also has, it also creates problems if I want to know who the other person is. If I want to share company confidential information, etc., I need to find other ways and forms of identifying these people: telephone, email, etc. I did mention confidentiality. The problem is that systems like Second Life, the data centers are not located over here. They're not located in my company. They're located over in the US, in California, big data center, and all the information I put into Second Life will be stored off-site. So if I have company confidential information in Second Life, I need to be aware that it's not on my side and it's out of my control. Brand and reputation. If I go into a public space in Second Life and I identify myself as working for Capgemini, for example, then I need to be aware that whatever I say will be associated with this company, and a lot of bloggers are in Second Life. There could be a journalist sitting next to me, and the next time I open a newspaper, whatever I say is written in the paper. So I just need to be aware of that a virtual environment is a public space. And productivity and perception, the last point here. A lot of people still perceive environments like Second Life as a gaming environment and wonder why their staff should spend time playing in this world, should play a game. But I'm sure that, or I hope that conferences like this one here are changing slowly the perception and ensure that these kind of virtual worlds are taken as real business tools. Well, I hope I haven't overrun too much. Thank you very much for listening. And I think we still have some time for some questions.
Thank you.